Welcome back. This is World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Starting from May the 15th, China's Special Representative for Eurasian Affairs, Li Hui, is paying a visit to 5 European countries. His first stop is Ukraine before he heads off to Poland, France, Germany, and Russia. His mission is a political settlement to the Ukraine crisis. Earlier, China released its position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis and has received extensive recognition from the international community. Li Hui's visit reflects China's promotion of peace talks, a demonstration that China is firmly on the side of peace. So what does the Chinese envoy's visit really mean, and is a political settlement possible? Let's have our panelists to find their answers. For Chinese Special Envoy's visit to Europe in Paris, Joab Toker, professor at the American Graduate School in Paris. In Oxford, Dr. Matteo Garavaglia, research associate from the Department of Politics and International Relations with University of Oxford. In Beijing, Cui Hongjian, director of the Department of European Studies with China Institute of International Studies. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. This is an important trip made by China's Special Envoy Li Hui to the region. Now, go to you, Dr. Garavaglia. What is the expectation, pragmatic expectation out of a trip of 1 week?
I would say that the main expectations, what European leaders would want to assess, is the extent to which China would be able to apply pressure on Russia. They view China as the stronger party in the relationship between Beijing and Moscow. And so they'll be curious to understand to what extent Beijing would be ready to leverage its influence on Moscow.
What about the earlier phone call made by Chinese President Xi Jinping with the Ukrainian president? Obviously, China is trying to talk to both sides, included in the trip.
That is certainly a very good signal. I think it's something that President Zelensky of Ukraine has appreciated very much. And I do think that there's a wish on part of all players involved in this conflict for China to play an active role.
One of the things, Professor Cui from Beijing, is that people's expectation of China's role, but China's is as far as I understand, is trying to bring the parties in the conflict together so that they could sit around the table. So is it an opportunity to examine China, or is it an opportunity to see how much likely the parties involved directly, particularly the two sides, are likely to come to the table with the efforts are coming from China and other parties as well?
I think now it's too early to say that which kind of a scenario, especially from China's perspective, we will try to achieve. I think it's just a very beginning step by this visit, from this visit by Ambassador Li and his team. As we know, since the breakout of the conflict, from the stance of Chinese government and the leaders, and to the position document, and also here, as we know, the first trip by this special envoy. I think it shows that the Chinese, the efforts to help the situation from its stance to policy and to actions. So I think this trip is just the very, very beginning one to know what's the real situation, especially if we look at the schedule of this visit to Ukraine and some European countries, and finally Moscow. We can find out it's a very, very big effort from China to know what's the real consent from every side. I think it's just the first step.
Professor Toker, does skepticism help?
Skepticism is part of the picture. You cannot take it out of the scenery.
No, you can't, but is that how much percent you want to exercise skepticism? If the goal is about skepticism, maybe people want to exercise 100%. If the goal is about, let's see what can we do together, maybe skepticism has to be leave the picture, at least to a certain extent.
Yeah, I think that in this stage, we were speaking right now, and we don't know a lot. We know very little, as a matter of fact, of what is really being said on all sides. No, there's no reason for skepticism as a system or as a method or as an operational formula. So, no, there's no reason to inject into whatever is happening right now about which we know so little an overdose of skepticism. However, there are many new, interesting, and promising aspects attached to this exploratory mission of Mr. Li. It is indeed a new phenomena on this level of high international relations to see China play such a direct, involved, open to some extent role when it comes to such a hot conflict at the heart of Europe and at the heart of the West from a Western point of view.
Right. Ambassador Li Hui, the special envoy, is heading out to this mission with tremendous pressure, if you read the international press. And also, of course, as a diplomat, he understands the importance of peace as well. Professor Cui, tell me more about how do you see an individual like that could function and should function under tremendous pressure, doubts, skepticism, tremendous amount of layers of rhetorics in different countries that he is traveling to, in order to make sure that discussion will be constructive and really getting things out of all parties concerned?
Certainly, I think that Ambassador Li and his team now are facing a very, very big challenge. Indeed, not only this even some skepticism from European side, from American side, and even from Russian and the Ukrainian side. I think it's not so easy for him to get some more common ground at the very, very beginning stage. But I think it's once Chinese government and Ambassador Li believe in their mission, so I think they could do something. For example, just like I mentioned before, that the first step is to understand the real situation and the security concern from every stakeholders, and also at the same time, try to maybe build up a kind of platform. For example, between China and the European countries, I think they do have a very, very good basis for some cooperation. If we look at this exchange between leaders from China and the European countries before. And of course, I think another very big challenge for China is how to deal with this complex situation. As we know, this crisis in Ukraine happened on three different categories. One of them is a very, very big, conflict or even disagreement between Ukraine and Russia. And then the regional challenge, especially for its security. I mean, not only European countries and also Eurasia region. And of course, third one is how about this so-called the stability of balance between major powers, especially Russia, United States, and even China. So I think it's a very, very complex situation. So I do not think that it's only China could do everything at the same time. So China needs to have some more communications with every partner, which should willing to help the situation. But of course, I think that China will try to provide a solution of political settlement. And then finally, I think the final solution would be a mixture or a kind of coordination between different solutions.
What do you mean by different solutions?
Also, we know that from different views, every stakeholders or even some countries like China, they do have some different understanding and even different goal for this crisis solution. So I think China now is trying to find out maybe the maximum convergences between all of these solutions. Once the most member of the international community try to go to the direction for more political settlement or diplomatic settlement.
Dr. Garavaglia, your thoughts reflecting what Professor Cui earlier said?
I agree with a lot of what Professor Cui said. I think these are very valid points. I think that what will be important will be to see how we can align incentives. How can we find a convergence? If not immediately between Russia and Ukraine, which I think might be too far-fetched at this stage, we're not there yet, whether we can begin to find some type of convergency or alignment in terms of incentives between Beijing and Washington, for instance. If they can develop a joint roadmap, then they will be able, in coordination, to bring this roadmap to Moscow and Kiev, respectively. So
Are you talking about parallel? Are you talking about parallel efforts, or are you talking about sequence?
No, I would say parallel efforts.
Professor Toker, your thoughts on the very beginning of the joint efforts?
Yes, this is the major quality, let's say, and the major significance of the fact that China is actually jumping into this scene and trying to do its best, I hope, I believe. But China is not a neutral negotiator. And it is important, even more so, I would say, I'm back to what I was saying about the listening capabilities and listening availabilities. To what extent, this is the way the West will be looking at it, and certainly the Ukrainians themselves. Right. What extent are the Chinese ready and capable of intervening in Moscow in order to give everybody around the table, multiple parties, the opportunity to then speak, say things, propose things, and then see in which way all these things could merge into something which would mark some progress.
If you look at the list of countries, Russia, Ukraine, of course, the two parties directly involved in this conflict, and also Germany, France, as well as Poland. These are important nations in Europe, of course, the latter group. It is also going to be a test of whether these countries, 5 of them, 3 not directly involved in the conflict, are having the capability of listening. It's very interesting, a picture we're seeing right now. Cui Hongjian, Matteo Garavaglia, Joab Toker, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for your input. And that's all the time we have for today. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei on behalf of the team. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.